Going live, yeah. Oh, I think we are actually live.
Nice.
So this is the first time that we're doing a live Hangouts on Air to introduce various members of the Resonate team. We are distributed around the world. I grew up in Colorado in the States, but I live in Berlin. We've got a few people in Berlin that work here, and we've got folks all around the world. And one of them is one of our lead designers, Timothée, who's in Paris. So say hello to everyone that could potentially be watching at some other point in time.
Hello everyone, my name is Timothée. As Peter said, I'm living in Paris, living and working, and I try to do my best to help on this beautiful project on my free time, and I just can't wait to see it live.
Excellent. So can you do me a favor and actually pronounce your last name, because I really don't know how it's supposed to.
It's Goguely.
Googly.
Like Timothée Goguely.
That's what I thought, but I it's French. I don't want to make mistakes there.
Yeah, it's a strange name.
Is it strange for French even?
It's
uncommon,
difficult to say, but it's okay.
So mainly at the moment you're working on wireframing for the player, design of what the app's going to look like in the future. So what's that process been like for you to build those wireframes?
Firstly, I was trying to apply, a way of thinking called object-oriented user experience. It's a way of approaching by thinking in terms of objects, and so I try to define what are the objects of the project, and we have the kind of lot of objects. We have which can be a different type of users, like the artists, the curators, DJ, labels, all type of users, and each type we have also object like release tracks, a remix, a DJ set, and all type of different variation. I tried to figure it out what were the connections between all these objects and which type of user interface was the most appropriate for translating those specific relation between those objects.
So an object in this kind of approach could be either a person or a track or an album. It's kind of like thinking of it as blocks or something.
Yeah, I think we two major groups. I think music and people, and maybe a third one, which could be places, like a city or a country or a place in a city. But it's less important that music and people. We are the two main groups in the platform, I guess.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things that I wasn't expecting to see when you first started sending the wireframes was the focus on geography, and it's really stimulated a lot of thoughts around that. And it's something that I hope that we're able to really build out, is to reconnect the platform back to physical space by connecting it to communities. I'm a huge Beatles fan and have been for a long time, and one of the key things that always kind of stuck in my mind about how they exploded was that they really started very locally and expanded out into bigger and bigger circles. So they first conquered Liverpool, then it was the north of England, then it was England, then it was the United K, and then they started going after countries. And there was some interviews where I think John kind of talked about that it was, that they were kind of expanding this circle out. And when you look at the history of, rock and roll or popular music in terms of how different artists grow and expand over time, it's really the same thing. It's almost a formula. You have to start in your local vicinity. You have to get, build your fan base there, and then you expand out. And so I think that, so much of music scenes and things that develop happen in places. And so I'd love to really see that we are able to take this idea and run with it in terms of maybe empowering local communities to do events, but also doing like what you're doing, treating that place as an object so that you can then relate things back to it.
Yeah, when you think of if we have a kind of city object, we can have all the labels established in the city, all the artists, all the events maybe, and it's a new way to explore content through the city or location. And I think and on Bandcamp, people to tag in the tag list. It's something users do a lot, but it's kind of hidden. It's too small, and I don't think people use it very often. But I really enjoy using those type of tags, and I think it would be better to separate this from because it's Chicago tags. It's Chicago is more than tags. It's a place with people and places, and I think it deserves a bigger importance in the interface.
Yeah, and of course it's going to get rather complicated when you are talking about larger cities and genres. I mean, really any city in a genre, because the needs of the Chicago hip hop community versus the hardcore punk community are going to be really different, even though there's always going to be overlaps among members, because nobody is really 100% into any particular genre.
Yeah.
Even metalheads, you guys like other stuff. It just happens.
But you can. I imagine when you're on the Chicago page, you have maybe the most subgenres and tags in this city, and maybe you will have hip hop and techno and footwear and stuff like that. And
yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting to explore, especially as we get into a lot of the nuances around tagging. And I think this is something that you've also been very, very interested in exploring and building out the player design. Do you want to talk about that for a minute? Your approach to tagging and semantics?
Yeah, sorry, I have just a kind of feedback loop when I was hearing me twice. So sorry, just a minute. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, just, we were talking about cities and tags when it comes to genres and music communities. And I know that tagging is a really important thing for you, and it's something that you're really trying to put a lot of emphasis on. So I was hoping you can discuss your thoughts about that a bit.
Yeah, I think tag are a really major feature because it allows every users and artist. First, artist. I think when upload their content, we'll have, like for example, the opportunity to content, and so this is artist. It allows the artists to share the vision they have on their content and what are the ideas they want to express on their work, and what kind of aesthetic movement or whatever you want, really niche genre they want to be associated. And so you have the artist defining their own content, and then you have the community that can add other layers of interpretation. And I think what can be really powerful is to have a public tags added by every users, and maybe some private tags, which can be really intimate things. It's the way you want to describe the music you listen, and associate with very places or and something you maybe don't want to share it with anyone, but maybe with some of your close friends or only you. And
yeah, this is something that I thought was super interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You were kind of breaking up a little bit, having a bit of bandwidth issues, I think, there with your connection. But the idea there about public and private tagging, that you can suggest a tag that's going to be that will apply to something that you're listening to that may extend beyond what the artist defines their music as. But then the idea of the private tag, where you could say, something very emotional, like music I like to cry to, where you don't want that tag to become public and you don't want to be associated with it, but it means something very deeply personal to you. And I think that's incredibly important, because music is one of the most intimate types of experiences that people can have, because it does, it's a ladder to the soul. It transcends, it transcends all language and transcends all meaning. And so when we try to reduce very complex emotions into words, a lot is lost, and that can be very personal for people that they don't, maybe they wouldn't want to share those most intimate thoughts of their own. And so we're going to have that function where you can have a private tag that maybe you share with yourself or just your friends.
Yeah, and I think the public tag things, the crowdfunded, the folksonomic, that's the term, can be really interesting too, because if someone already tagged the content with something you want to add, you should be able to like +1 it, and you have like the most tagged, the most used terms describing for describing content, and it creates a kind of map, a very large map with, I don't know, maybe 500 terms describing this music, and you have the most used one, and maybe the darker ones, and terms you never heard of. But it's I think it will be really interesting to see how people describe the music artists, and engage a kind of discussion between the artist and the community, and how people are describing the content can be really interesting for the artist. And
absolutely, it becomes a conversation.
What is the direction you need?
Yeah, it becomes a conversation between the artists.
I think it have a very powerful.
Absolutely. So,
it's also allowed to. I'm sorry. I think there's this kind of delay.
Yeah, it seems the little Google droids are not syncing our conversation very well. But how far along are you with the wireframes? I know you were doing some basic
no problem.
Rearranging of layouts and stuff. And so where are you about at the moment?
At the moment, so I'm working with the Sketch app, and I already made the little prototype using InVision. You see it, but I'm not really okay with I wasn't okay with the layout, so I tried to, as I said yesterday, I tried to redesign it and to separate the artists and curators and users pages from the platform pages, which are the home pages, the explorer pages, and stuff like that. So I think it's important to dissociate those two main type of pages, and I hope to. I think I can finish it for the next week. The artist pages, curator pages, release pages, and I will try to suggest something for the home, but blurry in my head, so we need to discuss about it.
Okay.
Because the home will be a really good challenge, I think, because everything is allowed, and we need to decide. Typically, the most challenge part is for the unlogged, because when you are logged, you want to see what you were dealing with yesterday, and the artists you like and curators you follow and stuff like that. But where are you not logged? You need to understand what Resonate is all about, and you need to have like some teasing about which kind of labels you have here, which kind of artist, what is the transaction system, and it's a kind of mix of didactic stuff. When it's hard to find, I think, but we need to test some hypotheses.
Yeah, and what you're describing there shows like how incredibly complex it can get when you start to think about the different states that occur for every view. You know, just a simple thing of yes, no, is someone logged in? And then you ask who is logged in, and does that affect a particular view of an individual page? And this level of complexity is exactly the reason that we're keeping this first stage to ourselves, because while we would love to show you what we're doing right now at the moment, how far we've progressed, it is important for us to stay focused as a team to be able to create the initial vision that we've got in mind. And then when we after the crowd campaign is finished and we start to go into development, then we'll start to create that open dialogue with the community. And of course, after we release the first version of the player, we're going to, like, everything that's going to happen from that point on, in terms of the way features and functionality work, is going to be driven by the community itself. Whether it's fans or musicians or labels, you all are going to decide where this thing goes next, because that's what being a cooperative is about. But I hope you understand that in the first stage that we're in, we really do need to stay focused as a team and to be able to release the first version. So thank you so much for having this little conversation. Maybe next time we'll have to do a bandwidth check and see if we're all good on that. But this has been exciting as our first video interview with members of the Resonate team. As I said, I'm in Berlin, and this is Timothy dialing in from Paris. And stay tuned for more interviews with more members of the team coming up soon. Thanks, Timothy.
Thanks, Peter.
This is the point where you can say au revoir.
Au revoir.